What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We're on another episode, finally, of the Mezcal Buzz podcast. I have my special guests here, Saul and Adrian Castellanos. They're the owners and founders of Azulillo Tequila. Guys, how you doing? Welcome.
Good yourself. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks. We just all right. I'm a little flustered, right? I've been going through panic, technical difficulties here. It's been a while since we had our last episode, so bear with us as we get into the next seasons and episodes. But to start off, if one of you can tell our listeners what is Azulillo Tequila, how did it come about, what's behind the tequila here?
So Tequila Azulillo started in 2015, I guess you would want to call it, right? We took a trip down to Guadalajara, my first trip to Guadalajara. One of my grandma's sisters had passed away. And so she's like, hey, let's go down to Jalisco, to Guadalajara. And I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to go or not, but let's go, right? So it was me, my cousin, and his dad. And we flew out there, right? And I fell in love with Jalisco. I fell in love with Guadalajara. I fell in love with everything out there, right? My roots, going back to our roots and stuff like that. So we took a trip to Tequila, right? And this is before the boom, before George Clooney sold his brand, and now you see what tequila is now, right? I mean, tequila was a small little pueblito where a little bit of people, a little bit of traffic, but it was nice, right? Now it's so commercialized, right? But anyways, we went out there, and I told my cousin like, what can we do to start our own tequila? You know what I mean? And it was funny because we ran into this man, David. I forgot his last name. But we
Sanchez.
David Sanchez, that's right, David Sanchez. And he's like, I have my own tequila. And I'm like, scratching my head, like, really? He's like, yeah, come over to my house, right? So we go, and he has this small little setup in his house, right? So I'm thinking in my head, like, it's cool, but it's not what we want, right? We want to do something a little bit more serious, right? And that's actually how it started. It was just one of an idea at first. And then obviously doing the research and doing all that other stuff, we realized that, we can make this happen. This is actually could be realistic. You know what I mean? This was obviously in 2000. What year was that actually?
We actually went down there in 2012 because I remember it was the Super Bowl. Niners, they lost that year to the Ravens.
Yeah. So
but that's the first time we took the trip, and we did a tour tasting in Amatitan. We went to Herradura, the factory. And we were so intrigued. We went to another factory, right?
We went to Cuervo. We did Cuervo. No, we did not Cuervo. We did Rubio, I think.
Casa Rubio,
yeah.
Once the idea hit, right? You guys got the idea. A lot of people ask themselves, and especially like you mentioned, the boom that's going on. It's like, oh, you got to start a tequila. We got to start a brand, or we got to start a liquor thing. But what kind of legwork went into it, research? I mean, one thing, it sounds fun and everything, and it is when you're visiting a lot of different distilleries and getting to taste, but when you're working on a project like this, you have an end goal in mind, right? What kind of things was going on through your guys'?
I think, Saul, the hardest thing was even finding the name, right?
Yeah. So the name itself was hard, just trying to get the name Azulillo, right? And I'll let Adrian get into the name real quick, but just finding the name was difficult, just trying to get a name. I remember I was telling my cousin, like, hey man, what about this name, and what about that name? And we would put it in through IMPE, and it's like real estate, tequila names are like real estate, so it's literally first come first serve, you know what I mean? So one day Adrian says, hey man, what about Azulillo, right? And I started thinking Azulillo, right? So a couple kind of things kind of got my light bulb going, right? Because for one is I got a couple buddies that call me Saulillo, right? Because my name is Saul, right? So Saulillo came around, right? And then Azul, right? Agave Azul. So I'm like Azulillo, and then I was like, hey cousin, that's great, that's an awesome name. Let's do it. And we put it in the IMPI, we got it. And I actually told my cousin, how'd you get that name? And then he started telling me all the history behind that name now. So it's all ties in. It's pretty awesome.
And what's that? What did that?
So Azulillo is actually the name of the birthplace of my mother. She was born in Azulillo, Jalisco, which is a small little ranch in La Sierra. And it's a rancho. So all the ranchos in Mexico, they have to have a municipio, right? So for example, if it's a farm, it's used to next to a city, right? So the city is Quitupan, Jalisco. So I took a trip out there in 2005, and my grandmother, she's 95 years old actually now. She was raised in La Sierra, and my mother was born there. So my grandmother got to tell me about her father. They used to harvest these wild magueyes, they llaman maguey bruto, and he used to make mezcal in La Sierra, in El Azulillo. So it's kind of a significant thing because of the birthplace of my mother. But just like Saul said, the name makes perfect sense, right? We know we harvest agave azul, tequilana Weber, and we make tequila, right? So the name, it just makes perfect sense. And then a couple of my uncles, Azulillo for them is like little blue.
I really like that about the family heritage, the cultural heritage that goes behind it, a spirit like tequila. Can you tell us a little bit more about what went into the next steps? And as you do that, could we taste maybe like your first expression that you guys came out with?
Sure. So one of the things that when we first started, it was obviously picking a distillery. We went to a couple, actually like 4 distilleries down in Tequila at the time, and we weren't happy with none of them. You know, we went I'm a really good judge of character. You know, I could talk to somebody and kind of see what this person's about, you know what I mean, just by talking to them, you know what I mean? I was dealing with an attorney at the time, trying to get the name, all that associated, and I ran into an attorney named Eddie Mai. Thank you. And I started talking to her like, hey, you know what, who do you recommend as far as distillery goes? And she was like, well, there's this family called, this gentleman actually, Roberto Real, right? And I said, well, let me give you his contact so I could go out there and talk to him and check him out, right? So I called Roberto, super chill guy, super cool guy. I met with him. We went to the distillery. He gave us a quick little tour, right? And I was just being honest with him. I was like, look, Roberto, I'm not, The Rock. I'm not. This is way before those guys too, by the way. This is before George Clooney. This is before all of them, actually. But I go, I don't got a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? I work construction. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm on a really tight budget. So I was like, you're not going to get rich with me. I told him straight out. It's really, really, telling him straight out. So he was really cool about it. And he's like, don't worry about it. We could do 100 bottles if you want. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, cool. So we started with the minimum of 3,000 at the time, and there was a lot of learning curve going on. So there was a lot of, what can I come out with? What I cannot come out with? We came out with actually an older bottle, a different style bottle of what you're seeing right now. It was one of those things that kind of looked kind of like a whiskey bottle. And, there was a lot of speed bumps, from actually we launched it, I would say probably 2015, right? 2017, we launched it.
So that's a cool timeline as far as the initial idea, 2012. Mm-hmm. A lot of that legwork was coming in.
Correct.
Until the launch of 2016.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where we launched it in 2017. And then now it's like, one of the mistakes that we made or I made or whatever is that we came out with blanco only. We came out with just blanco, which it was a learning curve. I was like, I didn't know I could come out with reposado, añejo, extra añejo, cristalino. Well, cristalino wasn't around yet, but just the reposado, añejo, and extra añejo, right? And we just came out with blanco. So that was one.
And is it the blanco that we'll taste today?
That's the blanco that we're gonna taste right now. Yeah, same juice. You want to try some?
Yeah, let's try a little bit before.
Salud.
Salud.
Salud. It's good. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I like it. I like the a lot of tequilas will not have that like smokiness so much. This has a slight little bit of a smokiness, which for me, loving like the mezcal and stuff, I do like it. Very slight, because I know.
Yeah.
How did the selection process go as far as going? Can you tell us about the production of this?
Yeah. So when I got to Robert, like I said, it was it was a lot of learning curve for us. You know, it was just, you know, you're getting yourself into another trade, another business. You're learning a lot, you know what I mean? And then me, like, at the time, you know, I would ask the questions, but a lot of times I wouldn't get the answers. You know what I mean? And I was trying to figure out a lot of the stuff going on and doing my research, and at the same time trying to be a full-time dad, you know, being a full-time, you know, as far as that's when also I was starting my other business. So it was a lot of transitioning going on during that time, you know what I mean? But, you know, Robert did kind of hold my hand for a little bit of it, you know what I mean, throughout the process of actually, you know, the sugars of the agave is explaining to me as far as the distillery goes. I mean, the distillation goes, you know what I mean? The fermentation, you know, and all those processes, right? But a lot of it also was just speed bumps and learning curves, you know what I mean? Because like I said, we just came out with Blanco, you know, and we would come out to the market and we would give the Blanco and people were like, yeah, I really like your Blanco, but let me try your reposado. And I'm like, I don't have any. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things where it was definitely a speed bump during that whole process. And we had some different legal issues going on as far as the brand as well. So all that kind of delayed us. It literally, we honestly lost probably like 3 years of just,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just delays, you know, speed bumps,
learning
delays.
in those 3 years.
Learning, there was some little legal issues going on as far as at the time as well. You know, so a lot of things kind of slowed everything back a little bit.
If you could look back and you could like maybe give advice or something, if you're, you know, giving yourself advice when you were starting, what are some of the things that maybe you would have?
Don't get into it. Don't get into it.
Nah, no, but I mean, like, there's a couple of things there. Like, there's a lot of speed bumps you mentioned that obviously one doesn't expect. It's not your main source of income because it's a passion project
Correct.
that you got going. How do you stay focused and motivated to be like, look, this is going to take X amount of dollars that we have to put in
Yeah.
to
And
see
time,
it through?
and time.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's like everything, Marcos. You know, it's, you know, a lot of it's patience. You know, patience. Money obviously is a big issue, a big key in any business, correct? But I think where there's a way, there's a will. You know, I really believe in that. You know what I mean? You know, just obviously be patient. You know, be patient. A lot of times we want to come out with the brand and we want to get the bottles and we want to get the juice inside already and we want to come out with our brand already, right? But a lot of times is when you're trying to do things too fast, you skip a lot of corners. You know what I mean? I think if I were to tell somebody who wants to get in the tequila business is obviously be patient. You know, pick a good distillery, someone that actually cares about what you're trying to do, what you're trying to produce. Because now, you know, there's so many distilleries. I went out there. When did I go out there? In December. I went out to Guadalajara and I took a little cruise through. I went through Matitan and I went through Tequila Jalisco, and there's a lot of distilleries popping up now. Like literally all through the back Saint Road, there's a lot of distilleries going on, big distilleries, right?
Left and right.
Yeah. So a lot of them are just, you know, unfortunately, a lot of them are just gonna try to get your money, you know, and that's unfortunate. You know what I mean? So I say if you're trying to come out with a good tequila, or your tequila brand, or mezcal, or whatever, raicilla, or you know, bacanora, sotol, make sure you pick a good, humbling distillery and someone that actually cares about you and cares about your product before actually launching somewhere.
And when you do that, and probably I'd recommend too, like researching a lot, learning a lot about the agave spirits. But how much are you guys allowed as far as quality control or being there, seeing how your product's being produced, right? Like what type of still is it produced in, or what, you know, what's the fermentation process and the milling process? Are you do you see that and you know that for each one of the expressions, or how does that kind of?
Yeah. So one thing about the Reales, like I said over there, and Selecto is they're very cool as far as the process goes. As far as if you want to be part of the whole process, you can. A lot of times though, as far as, you know, trying to see the quality is very important, because you have to be there. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what they're putting in your stuff. You know, that's the honest truth. You don't know what they're putting in your stuff, and sometimes it could get out of control. You know what I mean? A lot of those humps happen. Like I said, you know, when we were first starting, we were learning. You know what I mean? So, you know, we were going into it. We weren't tequileros. We haven't been tequileros. You know, we don't have generations and generations of tequilas in our family. You know what I mean? We're the first ones. Me and him. We're the first ones in our family. You know what I mean? So we're learning. You know what I mean? We're learning. So a lot of it was asking the questions, you know what I mean? And finding out and doing our own little research online, YouTube. Now you got TikTok, right? Now you got all these TikTok people that are always, you know, schooling you on tequila all the time. You know what I mean? Even a lot of that stuff, like, I'm like, man, I forgot about that. You know what I mean? I'll be watching some of the TikToks on some of these guys, and I'll be like, oh man, I totally forgot about that.
And TikTok didn't exist when we started.
Yeah.
TikTok didn't exist when we started, you know?
And it's amazing. You're right, because there's a lot now. One of the good things is with that boom and stuff, there's a lot of good information to educate the consumer. Absolutely. And then for a lot of programs for people to get certified and to learn.
Exactly.
And you know, I think it's great that people have an outlet to share that information.
Yeah.
Should we taste another one?
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. But like Saul said, one thing is very important when it comes to distilled spirits, especially tequila, is just patience. Because how long does a plant take to
exactly
mature, right? Before you harvest it.
I was talking to my brother, and I was like explaining that to him one time too, and I was like, man, the agave spirits and the plant stuff, it's like a premium by nature type of thing, right? Like before it even starts production and everything, just the premium aspects of it all come from the plant. Right. Oh yeah, shoot, I have to finish.
Got you right.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was gonna finish this whole shot right now just to taste
well,
another one.
I was gonna say, like, by the time we're done with all 6 of them,
yeah, I'll take little.
You guys are gonna seem a little happy.
Yeah, I'm excited to go through it. So when you're at the facility and production's taking place, does the quantity or the size of the production run affect what you're able to do as far as process goes? Like if it's in the autoclave or is it in the brick ovens?
Oh yeah, for sure in an autoclave. So the autoclave obviously is a stainless steel horno, you know what I mean? So obviously your production is gonna be a lot as far as less smokier.
Is this don't mean to interrupt, we're doing the reposado?
We're doing reposado. Probably
6
put
months.
that one right here on the table right here. So
6 months. 6 months reposado. Okay.
6 months reposado is one of our actually favorites. A lot of people.
Oak, or what is it?
American oak, American wine barrels.
Barrels. Cool, okay.
Yeah, wine barrels. It's one of our top sellers. Our reposado is one of our best ones. I really enjoy it. One of my favorite, but they're all my favorite. You know, it's like, you know, picking your favorite child. You know, they're all my favorite.
I haven't had to choose yet, but
hopefully not. But you know, they're all delicious. But definitely reposado is one of them that people tend to like.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's a little bit more on the sweeter end. It's a little bit also smoother. It's got a good character to it, a good aroma. You know, I guess it goes good too with cocktails. I've tried it with cocktails. You know, obviously everybody's different, but I've tried it with some cocktails. It's delicious. Our reposado. So, it's definitely one of the fan favorites for sure.
And talking about fan favorites and stuff, how has the journey been then with the fans, with the community and supporters? We met at an event, and there was a lot of people coming in, discovering new brands, new spirits. What has that journey been like, and what are some of the efforts you guys do to?
Well, marketing, right, is very important, but just word of mouth in general. For example, I work in the HVAC industry, which is in general.
We both do. We both do.
And it's construction, right? Yeah. And you're just spreading the word that you have a product, and people drink, whether it's on a weeknight or weekend, right? And I've sold a lot of product just in general, just getting the word out there, and people just to help you, promote you. They'll also kind of just where can I buy it? Where can I get it? And they give you a lending hand just like that.
And so with that said, where can you buy it and where can you get it?
Our base core is San Diego, right?
Okay.
Obviously, it's San Diego. I know we got it in Garden. I think it's Garden Grove in Riverside. I know there's I think it's if I'm saying it right, Ramirez
Ramirez
in East LA. Obviously online, we got it in Old Town Tequila in San Diego.
I was going to ask right now. I think right now is a great time for alcohol sales, as far as you mentioned, online, direct to consumer. I think for somebody that does want to come out with a brand, it's hard to distribute, right? It's hard to like cover so many things. If you're not with a big distributor, I've been learning it's like hard to get into these outlets and stores like that. But DTC has proven to be, especially with the pandemic that just like came. I mean, people don't ever going to stop drinking, right?
Yeah.
And then especially in the pandemic, DTC started, I think, blowing up. So I think has your sales been pretty well as far as DTC goes, or how has that been?
Well, a lot of it's just like Adrian said, a lot of it's just word of mouth. You know what I mean? What people are doing. We don't really do that much marketing. You know, we're starting to, right? We're obviously doing the podcast and we're doing some different things to kind of change it up and get the name out there. I think a lot of it, and I'm very honest, Marcos. Well, that's one thing about me. I'm very, very honest, and maybe I shouldn't be too honest. But you know, a lot of it is just we got other lives. You know what I mean? And those lives kind of take over sometimes. You know what I mean? And a lot of it is family, business, you know, the HVAC company. And then, you know, you got this very little time, you know, my son plays travel ball, baseball, so I'm with him doing that, you know, so it's hard to squeeze time to do this, you know what I mean? So, but the little time that we do dedicate, me and Adrian, you know, it's productive. It's productive, you know what I mean? And the time that we do, people are getting out there and people are asking, where can I buy it? You know, we get online sales, we get, you know, people go to the markets and the liquor stores and we're selling out, you know what I mean? So it's definitely moving. You know, is it moving at a fast pace like we wanted to? No, it's not. You know, we still haven't quit our jobs, right?
Yeah,
for it.
Still
but
a hobby.
Yeah, but you know, I think, you know, our vision is this is what we want to do, and this is what the route that we're trying to go, and I think eventually, you know, we'll break that ceiling. You know what I mean?
What? So really quick, while we're on that topic, for the people watching, if they could buy one right now, then literally if they went to the website or
tequilaazulillo.com. Tequilaazulillo.com. There's literally right there. There's actually 3 stores that actually sell it online. One is Old Town Liquor, the other one is Keg and Bottle, and the other one is King's Liquor. King's Liquor sell it. They're all 3 of them selling online.
Awesome. So right there, boom, right to your door.
Yes, sir.
Which I mean, I haven't finished these shots fully yet. I do need to, but I do want to get
añejo, the añejo cristalino, and the extra añejo, and we also have another product called raicilla.
Let's talk about that. I do want to go back to the tequilas as well, but you guys have expanded through the tequila. Cristalino's fairly new as well, but you're also doing raicilla.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
us about the raicilla.
I'll let Adrian take that one because he's the one that actually got that idea going.
Awesome.
Raicilla,
So raicilla is it's a distilled spirit. Few years ago, it was actually known as the Mexican moonshine because there was no denomination of origin or, you know, some sort of protection agency to actually classify it as a product. But now it's expanded and it's growing. And my wife's family is from a location in Mexico, se llama Ayutla, Jalisco. And one of her uncles had some good friends in the small town of Cuautla, Jalisco. They produce raicilla. And I was able to get a couple of bottles for my own consuming
Nice.
habits. And I brought them with me to the United States, and I gave one to Saul, and I said, look, this is the product. It was new to me. I didn't know about raicilla, but it was actually a very good product, very smooth. And I gave one to him, and I was like, what do you think about it? And he enjoyed it, right? And I was like, what would you think about mixing with this, trying to get into this? He's like, well, you know, let's give it a shot, right? So we took a trip down there, and we drove to Cuautla, and we met these gentlemen, and they have their small little factories in La Sierra of Jalisco. So raicilla, for example, it comes from either La Costa or La Sierra, and it's from the state of Jalisco. And this one here is from Agave Maximiliana.
Well, let's. You want to try? Let's try
it.
some. Yeah, let's try some. So now we could talk about it, and you could kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. But raicilla, like Adrian said, it's a new product. You know, it's very artesanal.
Yeah, I was gonna say new to the public, right? But it's
Correct.
been around just as many
Correct.
hundreds of years of you mentioned earlier, and I wanted to make a point of it. So the region that it's produced in Jalisco as well, but when he's saying the costa, is like the coastal and the sierra that's closer to the coast. So it's like a smaller region.
Inland.
Inland, right? Like la Sierra Occidental, se llama, ¿verdad? Pero la costa would refer to like Vallarta.
Okay.
Near Vallarta or all along the coast of Jalisco, the state of Jalisco.
Excuse me.
So this, for example, just like we know tequila can only be made and produced in 5 states in the Mexican Republic. So also you'll find that the raicilla is a little smoky.
Sorry.
So the process is very similar to how they produce mezcal. And the majority of mezcales I've tried come from Oaxaca, right? But for example, there's about 4 different types of agaves that are utilized to make raicilla. But we in general use Maximiliana. And the only thing about Maximiliana, it takes much longer for it to be harvested because the only way you could reproduce it is through a seedling. And you know that could take up to a year for it to actually sprout from one
Just
seed.
to sprout, yeah.
Just to sprout, yeah. So it's so interesting. But it's definitely the new thing on the market here in the States. And like you mentioned, it's been around for generations, right? But hopefully that's the...
It's definitely a diamond in the rough, for sure. I think it's definitely, I've got nothing
Good.
but positive vibes on raicilla.
And it's much different profile than
Yeah.
a tequila, and it's fantastic. Like it's a little more sour and smooth. It's very smooth.
And now also what distillers are doing, they're actually aging it. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, so now you can get reposado, añejo, raicilla, even extra añejo. So it just, the quantity that's produced is very little as compared to tequila. So for a lot of these gentlemen, it's kind of hard for them to put a couple 100 barrels or so away just to age because it takes a few years for it to
Yeah,
actually...
I think that's one of the interesting things in agave spirits, and especially right now that there's so many regions in all of Mexico that produce some type of agave spirit or a mezcal, if we're talking like in a general term, right? But like all of them have some that have denomination of origin or other names, like the raicilla, for example. But it's interesting that how certain, I don't want to call them trends and stuff, because they're
Yeah.
in some ways they're trends, and in other ways it's tradition, depending on where it's coming from. But like the aging, for example, like now you said they're aging the raicilla,
Yeah.
which I heard a story too that was kind of interesting, and I've heard this both I think it was around the Chihuahua area, and I've heard it for some of the raicilla regions that it wasn't really aged, like kind of how like tequila is left to age 6 months a year. But when they were transporting it through the sierras and through the mountains and stuff, sometimes they would be transported in like oak or wooden barrels and stuff. So it was like it would get aged, but not like because on purpose, like, hey, let's age it because that's how we like it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
A lot of it was contraband, like underground, right?
Yeah, totally. I also heard that the reason it was called raicilla is because when they were going through the sierras and stuff too, a lot of the women, which I think is awesome that women played like a huge part during the different prohibitions of the agave spirits. But so like the women would go and they would hide it under their big dresses, or they would carry it like if it was a baby, and then the federales wouldn't suspect like that a woman would have it. But when they would be asked, I heard that they would call it raicilla, and they would like
Throw them off.
like, oh, it's like a medicinal drink, or it's like not an alcohol, like it's not a mezcal, it's not vino de mezcal. So they're like, oh, raicilla was what they used
Yeah.
to like
To hide it, because during the time it was during Nueva España, right? And so mezcal was being taxed. Like, so if you had distillery of mezcal, right? Because tequila wasn't around yet, right? So mezcal was like, all right, you own mezcal, well, we're going to tax you, right? So they came out like, well, we got to figure out something, right, for raicilla. And also the people that were doing raicilla at the time, right, they were doing in the caves. They were working in mines, right? They were working in mines. So la raíz, right, underneath the ground, right? And they came out with raicilla, right, during Nueva España. And then also to throw off the government. So it'd be like, yeah, it's raicilla. And the government like, oh, okay, whatever, right? But they didn't know what it was, right? They didn't know what it was. So they're like, yeah, go ahead. We're not going to tax you. I don't know what the heck that is, right? And that's why raicilla was kind of like, it would be different, and it was confusing people. You know what I mean? But that's how that whole name came around, raicilla, and now tequila has exploded, right? It's literally exploded. And mezcal is also, it's getting up there as well. So people are looking for different ventures, right? Different ideas, different things to come out with, right? So, Adrian, he's like, and I would tell Adrian all the time, dude, we got to come out with something different. Like tequila's just, it's just, there's a lot of it, you know what I mean? It's, and like I said, a lot of them are doing bad things, right? But, I told it, and he came out with raicilla. I was like, hey, try this out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it was
I dig that, and it's really good. I really like the. We're getting like the kind of bigger ones, like you were saying. You've been serving them up, but the raicilla one's actually like going. I like all of them, but for those that want to try something new and stuff, and that the raicilla's coming out, definitely need to try.
And it's delicious with like a Jamaica, with mixed out cocktail. It's delicious with that. I've tried it. It's one of my favorites with the cocktails.
Man, that first flavor on the tip of your tongue and your mouth, I like that. It's like it's not so sour, but I want to call it sour. It's like very citrusy, very green. It's so different.
It is a little citrusy. A little bit of I would say probably maybe like a pepperish kind of, maybe, you know what I mean?
Definitely pepper in there.
Kind of like it kind of gives it a little bit of a pepper kind of a taste there.
And it does have a bite to it, which I like. I like that at the end it does have a bite, but not so strong.
Yeah.
It leaves your mouth with that sensation right now. It's like I keep salivating from it. It's good.
Some of your raicillas are 100 proof, right? So equaling 50% volume of alcohol.
What do you have here on this?
And this one is 40%.
40. Okay. What's the proof for most? Are you all 40?
They're all 40.
Okay.
They're all 40.
Which I think, 40 is a good point to be palatable.
Yeah.
Right. For the consumers.
I know there's a lot of, like I said, TikTok right now, right? I know there's a lot of new tequilas that are like, you're always trying to be different, right? That's this, you're trying to corner the market, So I know there's a lot of tequilas coming out with 100 proof, like Adrian said, you know what I mean? 52% alcohol now, you know what I mean? So they're trying to be different now with these tequilas now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ours is at 40. We got some new stuff coming up, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I like 40. I like 40. We did some tastings. We tasted the raicilla, right? And we actually tasted it at 42, right?
42, 38, 35.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even the lower ones.
The lower ones, yeah. But when obviously for importation in the United States is 40% and above, right? And I know we had gotten 42, 42, but we tried the 42 and we tried the 40, right? And it was just a completely different taste. I could tell the taste. You know what I mean? I'm sure.
Much harsher too.
Much harsher.
Oh, much harsher.
Yeah. So I think we both agreed that we wanted to come out with 40. It was something good. It was something that we both liked. We both believed in, and that's why we went with the 40 raicilla.
Yeah, I think that's good. Is what you both liked, and two, again, understanding the market and the consumer, that even though it's growing so rapidly, it's growing fast. A lot more people are more educated now. Like you're saying, like the TikToks and like the Instagrams. There's a lot more education out there and a lot more information about like traditional agave spirits and just process and things about the proofs, but there's like a balance, right? Like there's a balance between something that's palatable, something that's approachable, that the market as a whole can enjoy and get into, and then get into learning about more agave spirits, more expressions that you have in tasting other things, and just spark that curiosity to try more things. I think that's cool. What kind of things do you guys have in store for the future, or where do you see yourself in 5 years, or is there anything you could talk about? Or?
I mean, hopefully on all the stores in 5 years from now, right?
Yeah.
But we are working on a couple of things. hopefully we're coming. I'm designing a couple, actually one bottle, I should say, not a couple. One of them is not really too much of a design. We're taking this one, we're changing it up a little bit. That one's coming out here real soon. We're gonna come out with a mezcal, which is, we still don't know what type of mezcal we're gonna come out. We haven't got there yet. Sorry. So we haven't gotten there yet, and we are coming out with a limited edition bottle, which is going to be really cool. I wish I could share that with you guys, but
you just did.
Yeah.
You just
But the logistics I haven't did yet. You know what I mean? So we're working on that, and hopefully the mezcal is we're trying to probably push at least this year, at least mid this year, end of next year. I mean, end of this year. And then that new bottle, hopefully we're trying to push it by the end of this year as well.
For the mezcal, can you share, do you have it selected yet? Or do you have an idea of where you want it to be from? Or what are you kind of looking for to bring mezcal into?
Well, I think it should come from Oaxaca, me personally.
Okay.
I don't know what Adrian, obviously Adrian does his research as well, and he kind of says, hey, let's check out this place or whatever. But I've talked to a couple distilleries out in Oaxaca. You know what I mean? One of them was, I think it was Mal de Amor.
So 2-part question.
Go ahead.
And maybe you want to go first. So you were like, let's see what Adrian says about if it should come from Oaxaca. So why Oaxaca? And do you also agree Oaxaca, or has your research sparked anything else?
Well, I know, for example, Guanajuato and Zacatecas are pretty big. Durango as well. And it's just something about being something different. But when it comes to tradition, well, Oaxaca is a more traditional place for mezcal, right? And
yeah.
So
I mean, I like to throw my sense in there too. I think so. I think it'd be great to see something outside of it, only because everybody knows Oaxaca for mezcal. It produces about 90% of the mezcal. Like 90% of the mezcal market is Oaxaca. Which to me it's just insane. I mean, they have the most biodiversity in agaves, and they're the self-proclaimed mezcal capital of the world.
Yeah.
For good reason, but I mean, following behind them, we have like Puebla and Durango you mentioned, but they're following way behind. And to me, it blows my mind. There's 8 other states that produces. Sinaloa, I think, almost got added.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know Sinaloa produced mezcal.
They just got added to the
Michoacan.
What else we got? You mentioned Zacatecas, Guanajuato, Tamaulipas.
And there's also a region in Jalisco. This is south of Chapala, so near Mazamitla. The whole region where Azulillo is actually from. There's also a few places that produce mezcal from maguey bruto, or criollo, como le llaman ellos.
So that to me interests me a lot, because I think if you guys are doing something different and stuff, I mean, not to say don't do it from Oaxaca, because there's a lot of fantastic stuff in Oaxaca, but I always try to explore different regions. We were talking about, you were telling me about your background in film and projects and stuff too, which is what attracted me to you guys too, is the entrepreneurship and what a project like this takes. Yeah. And we were talking about the documentary, and I have interest in, I'd like to do the documentary visiting all the regions of mezcal producing regions. And really, there's the 9 states that produce mezcal, but there's more states that produce agave spirits that are not even included in the denomination of origin, which just fascinates me. And that's the kind of stuff that I like to share with people and have those conversations.
Absolutely.
Being
There's
in
about
Mexico,
200 varieties of agave known, right? Only about 40 of those are utilized to make a distilled spirit.
Yeah.
So there's so many options up there. Absolutely, just like you mentioned.
And most of them, I forgot that percentage, but they're all endemic to Mexico too, which is fantastic too. I mean, agave, we talked about that earlier too, how agave spirits are spreading across the world. Yeah. But they started in Mexico.
Viva Mexico.
Yeah, for sure.
Viva Mexico.
Cabrones.
That's right. That's right. And to address that, like, honestly, I don't care who we work with. I mean, obviously, if they're giving us quality is what we're looking for. If they're honest, that's another big one in Mexico, right? I'm Mexican. I think we all experience sometimes Mexico works, unfortunately.
Especially with it growing like that, they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
ways to.
Yeah,
you're right.
And that's the reality of it, right? So, obviously we want to work with somebody. We want to have a relationship with that person. You know what I mean? Before we actually pick a distillery. But it's funny because now that we're talking about this, I was actually gonna tell Adrian. I was like, hey man, I was gonna tell him I want to go to Oaxaca, right? I want to go to Oaxaca this year, right? So I was gonna tell him like, hey man, let's take a little trip down there and visit some distilleries. You know what I mean? And see who wants to work with us. You know what I mean? So it's definitely in the works. It's obviously picking the right people to get it going.
Yeah, and I think again because Oaxaca is such a great place to do that, has a lot of infrastructure for it. There's a lot of tourism that goes to it. So and a lot of people know
it's
Oaxaca.
well established, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great stuff from Guerrero too. That we should do another tasting sometime.
Or whoever wants to reach out.
Yeah,
whoever
that
wants
too.
to reach out to Azulillo, you know what I'm saying? We're down as well.
No, that too. I think that's what's great about having a platform. My goal is that it's to create a platform for people to share and have their voices heard and proliferate more knowledge and stuff. I was seeing, I look online too, since I've been the past 4 years in Mexico City. Now I'm establishing back in California, trying to see what's up out here, locally in LA, down to Orange County. We're in the Inland Empire. That's where I live. So like I'm trying to see where the mezcal or agave spirit programs are growing.
Yeah.
And they're growing. There's some places that are starting to pop up and do some things.
Do you recommend somebody in Mexico City?
In Mexico City?
Or I mean,
there's
because I know you're in the mezcal as well. Like, is there somebody out there that you recommend as far as for us to try to joint venture with?
Well, in Mexico City, I recommend. There's a curaduría, a buddy of mine that's called Mezcal Nautas, and he was on my podcast episode. I want to call it episode 3, and he does a great job curating mezcales from all of Mexico, right? So I think contacting him would be great. I could put you guys in touch. He also curates for different restaurants, different mezcalerias in Mexico City. His name is Diego. So maybe it would be a good outreach to him. And the reason is because, again, good contacts with a lot of the producers, traditional producers that you could go meet in person and see what their operations are.
Yeah.
And then even out here, another thing that I was talking about is researching. I just want to see how I don't want to say the scene, but how how agave and mezcal culture is growing here, right? I just visited. Are you familiar with Punch Bowl Social?
No, I'm sorry.
It's like it's a restaurant, nightlife restaurant, and for those of you that know it doesn't really say agave or mezcal program, right? But they just opened up. They launched a new program called the Agave Room. And they have about 100 different labels in there. They're pretty well curated, some good brands. And their idea is to educate and bring experiences to the public to start to learn about agave spirits.
What's it called again? Sorry.
It's called the Agave Room.
The Agave Room.
In Victoria Gardens. And that's something that's in the Inland Empire, right? But there's a lot of fantastic restaurants in Los Angeles and even some in Orange County that are implementing mezcal programs. But no, man, I think part of the journey too for myself is just like meeting people like yourselves and getting to know brands and really sitting down and tasting, right? The best thing I tell everybody is you got to taste. You got to taste stuff.
You got to taste.
Because I run into people like, oh, I don't like mezcal. I hate. Oh no, I can't.
Yeah.
And you just haven't had you were mentioning just the variety alone that exists, and
you just can't judge a book by the cover, right? Just like in everything in life. But the beautiful thing about it is it's so vast. There's so much to it. There's different kinds, and even for us, like we're still a small company, and we would like to maybe join up with a small distiller, small factory, and maybe grow with them, because at the end of the day, teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just a matter of just getting 2 and 2 together and making 4.
Cool.
Y el sol para todos, El sol es para todos, Sun's for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just, like I said, it's one of those things we just got to find the right people to work with and you know, when somebody click and somebody that's also wants you to be successful. You know what I mean? Wants you to be successful because a lot of them, you know, probably just looking for money. You know, so that's one of the things that I also too, you know, highly recommend is you want somebody that wants your best interest for sure.
Yeah, I agree that you see eye to eye, right? And
Yeah.
could work on a shared vision.
Correct.
thing.
Correct.
I agree.
Correct. Yeah. You want to try some more? We got we tried the raicilla, the blanco, reposado. We still got 3 more, man.
I'd like to I haven't tried the añejo, cristalino, and extra añejo. What about something in between? So how long do you age your
Let's try some of that cristalino. Let's talk a little bit of cristalino. I think cristalino's actually my favorite.
Okay.
You know, if you want to say a favorite child, you know, cristalino's my favorite. They say that all parents have a favorite child, but you know, I'm not gonna say which one's mine.
I have one. I only have one, but that's why.
That's good. That's good. But cristalino's definitely my favorite. It's you know, when I tried it and then I was working with the tastings and the aromas, it's one of the ones that I I really enjoyed. And I told my cousin, like, I like this. This is what I want to do. You know?
Tell us for those that are new to the cristalino, break it down for
I'll let Adrian.
Well, this cristalino, for example, is derived from our original añejo, which is 18 months in oak barrels, and it's distilled, right, and then aged for 18 months, and then it's charcoal filtered and oxygenated to kind of add a little smooth touch to it. So if you drink it, it's relatively very smooth, kind of sweet at the end.
And if you could see, our cristalino is more of a little bit of a lime color, little bit limeish. It's not a clear 100% clear cristalino. It's a little bit different.
Right.
Like I said, it's just trying to be different from different brands. We wanted to give it a little bit of a color from the barrel. You know what I mean? Keep some of, because once you filter it in carbon, it wipes out the color of the añejo.
That's cool because again, it being so new and we're visual creatures, right? By nature, we're visual, and I feel like the cristalino is almost like an oxymoron that exists because you have that aging 18 months, right? It's for your original, right? So we're drinking an 18-month aged spirit right here.
Right.
So that filtration that you talk about to give it that extra round of smoothness, but also to remove that color, but it tastes very similar to it. And a little bit of a smoother taste, like you were saying. I think that little touch of that little bit of color still kind of grounds it back in that you're drinking
An añejo.
unaged.
An añejo.
An añejo. Awesome. Yeah, you're right.
And people have mixed
That's
feelings
interesting.
about it. Yeah, and people have mixed feelings about cristalinos. You know, a lot of the guys that hardcore drinkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're all like, why are you gonna buy a cristalino if you could just buy an añejo, right? But you know, everybody's different. You know, everybody's there. It's like, why are you gonna buy Dr. Pepper? You know what I mean? Or Sprite or Cherry Coke.
Sometimes I get Mr. Pibb, though.
Or Mr. Pibb, exactly. Exactly. So, you know, not everybody, you know, everybody's different. You know, not everybody's going to like just añejo and not everybody is going to like just cristalino. So,
And I think you said something really important, that it's like the hardcore, right? And, you know, there's definitely a niche in what the agave spirits is, right? There's definitely niches. There's definitely... there's the traditional side of what the spirit came from, right? How it got created, how it came to existence, and traditional methods that exist. And then there's the demand that sometimes we say it's an ugly demand because how do you keep up with demand, right? But you respond to demand. We respond to demand. Brands respond to demand.
Customer's always right.
The customer's always right. And it's a fine balance and stuff, but I think it's really cool and it's innovative. A lot of times it's innovation that keeps things going forward, right? And maybe somebody might not even be interested in agave spirits until they tasted a cristalino because it got their attention. They're like, hey, that's actually good. Let me taste something else. Oh, these ones aren't so bad.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But if you think about how far tequila has come, I mean, if you watch those movies from Época de Oro in the 50s and the 40s, And these gentlemen, they would drink tequila, right, making a movie, but all they were drinking was blanco. They didn't have reposado, añejo, extra añejo in those days. And I'm talking 80, 70 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So they were drinking blanco, and it was nearly 50%, right? Volume
right,
of
right.
alcohol. So
ABV, yeah.
we've come a long way, absolutely. And just trying to keep up with the cognacs and the rums and how long they're aged for, right? Scotch. So even 3 years is, you have to be a very patient individual to wait 3 years to get your product done, right? Now just think about the other gentlemen when they're aging 15, 21 years, right? Or they're blending it. But tequilas, I think, is going to trend in that direction. And I'm sure people have come out with 20-year-old tequila, 15-year-old tequila. Why? Because somebody forgot a batch in the back of the warehouse somewhere in La Cava. And oh, man, we got a couple barrels, and this thing is 20 years old now. Let's put it in the market and see what happens.
You know which one was? It's pretty interesting that I seen. Have you guys seen the when they age it in wine barrels, red wine barrels, and it turns like red, rosy? I started seeing that too, and it was a celebrity brand that I saw that was what's it called? Cali Rosa.
Well, their distillery is Selecto, is who we
So
work
they
with.
do that?
Yeah, they
Okay.
work with us. So we use white wine barrels.
Okay.
For our aging. Cali Rosa, I don't know. Maybe they have something with the Reales that they want to also be different, right, from every brand that comes out of that distillery. So it's possible.
And that's
That's
NOM
interesting,
1459 right
Yeah.
there.
No,
Right,
they
earlier I
want it,
said
yeah.
I said it mistakenly. It's 14. 1459.
Yeah.
And the name of the distillery.
Selecto.
Selecto.
Tequila Selecto de Amatitan, Jalisco.
Let me taste this cristalino one more time here.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Salud.
Salud. Cheers.
Right on. So, is your reposado and your añejos all in the American oak wine barrels? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All are in the white American oak barrels. Exactly. Except for the raicilla. Obviously, that comes from a different distillery. It's a Selecto.
Oh, that's right.
It's a Selecto, but it's not a Tequila Selecto. It's actually from a town called San Gregorio, like where Adrian was saying, in La Sierra.
Cool, man. Well, I think, is there anything last touches you guys would like to add before we wrap up? I think we had a cool little conversation
I
here.
think for whoever's listening is a few words is support Mexican brands, support small brands. I'm not a big fan of celebrity tequilas. You know what I mean? I think, they already have too much money already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think, buy mom and pop. Buy mom and pop. I know we all like to shop at Walmart. It's it's great. But if you could support mom and pop, that's always a plus, because they're the ones that need the help the most. We're the ones that need the help. So support Mexican-owned small brands, tequilas or raicillas or mezcales or what is it, sotol, bacanora, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Support small brands.
I'm down with that. I agree, and I think do your research, right? Let people know that there's, like we said plenty of times on the podcast, there's a lot of information online. There's a lot of great resources. Yeah. Just do your research. Support the small brands, Mexican brands, Mexican-owned brands. I'm totally with that. And I think I want to thank you guys one more time for doing this podcast. I hope we could do more. Well, there you guys have it. We're back. Another episode of the Mezcal Buzz podcast. I want to thank Azulillo Tequila for being here. I want you guys to go online right now. Try that raicilla. Of everything for me, I was like, yo, this raicilla, I'm gonna finish everything I have here on the table. But yeah, it was legit, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. As always, I'll catch you guys next time.
Peace out.
Peace out.